Welcome to the Vintage Vibe Love Lounge podcast with your hosts Laura and Aneela, where timeless romance meets modern wisdom.
Welcome back to the Vintage Vibe Love Lounge, where we explore the beauty of love and relationships for women over 50. I'm Laura.
And I'm Aneela. Today, we're diving into a topic that's crucial for maintaining healthy and fulfilling relationships: the importance of boundaries in love.
Yeah, today's topic might make people feel a little uncomfortable. I don't know. Sometimes in my coaching world, boundaries, the word discipline, accountability, they can all be like 4-letter words. So I'm glad we're talking about this because especially when it comes to love, it's super, super important. Boundaries can often, feel like walls that separate us from other people. So I get why that even the word sometimes for some people feels uncomfortable, but the truth is they're actually essential for nurturing our connections and maintaining our well-being. And according to research, and just so you guys are clear, some of the information that we've gathered for this podcast episode today has come from Psychology Today and the Help Guide. So according to research, boundaries help reduce codependent habits and set clear expectations, which are the key to empowering ourselves and our relationships. And one other thing I want to add, in our Charm School course, 33 Find Your Vibe in 33 Days, we also highly encourage you to get the book Liberated Love. It is a fantastic book. Whether you feel like you have codependent habits or not, it's really great on how to build a relationship on a solid foundation.
Absolutely, Laura. I'm so glad we are talking about boundaries today, just because of what I experienced yesterday with a good friend of mine, and it was really truly about boundaries. We got into it and she was adamant about talking about it at that moment, and clearing the air. And I just kept saying, look, I know you're ready and you've processed it, your emotions about our dispute, but I haven't, and I need just a little bit of time more to process before I can come in. Because I know if I come in now and discuss what we're going to discuss, it is going to come off so terribly awful, because when I get upset, I really can go after the jugular, and I don't want to do that. So let's start by defining what we mean by boundaries in the context of relationships. Boundaries can be physical, emotional, sexual, or even related to our time and resources. They help us feel safe, respected, and understood.
Well, brava to you, Aneela, because it takes so much presence to push the pause button in those types of situations. It's so easy for our triggers, just emotions, etc., to just flare up, like throwing gasoline on a fire, and that just doesn't serve anybody well. So applause. And for those of you listening, that is a fantastic technique. You're not walking away. I grew up in a situation where anytime something got tough, that person would just exit the room. That's not what Aneela did. She was very respectful and conscientious and, quite honestly, quite loving and vulnerable, and sharing the fact that she just needed some space, because she's right. We all process things in a different way. Thank you for sharing that. So for instance, physical boundaries might involve personal space and privacy. And God knows this is kind of my, I'm really good at this. So this can be like needing your own room or setting limits on physical affection. So when it says needing your own room, like what we're referencing is literally like you have your, just like you would have a meditation room, you have your own space where you can go and just literally clear your energy, take care of yourself, self-care, self-love. And then For some of you, you want to have limits on the physical affection. So we all come from multitudes of different backgrounds, and some had severe situations with abuse, so that's where all of this kind of comes into play. And emotional boundaries could be about how much emotional energy you can give or take from a partner. And for me, having grown up the way that I did, when you're dealing with narcissistic behavior, you're constantly on eggshells and walking around, and so you're always on guard. So when it comes to energy, you have to be, I know for me, it's what I've learned over the past several years, how if you're not present to it, if you're not aware of it, that it can really, really zap you.
Oh my God, so true. And it's hard, I think, as individuals, it's hard to know at times when we're emotional, like my girlfriend was the other day that I was talking about. We were both emotional, and in her emotional state, she wants to fix things as quickly as she can. I am the other way. I like space to process, to go back in, because in the heat of the moment, I'm not processing properly, and I will say things that can be really, really hurtful to another. So setting and maintaining these boundaries really does require self-awareness and communication. It's important to know what you need and to be able to truly articulate that to your partner. One study found that individuals with high levels of self control, which includes setting and maintaining boundaries, had better relationships and greater satisfaction. I'm going to be the first to say, I like to believe I have self control, but there have been moments, including yesterday, where I feel like my emotional state can take over my self control. And I sometimes cry because I feel like the Hulk. I can only relate it to the Hulk or to Elsa in Frozen, in that I seem to cry when I get to that place, because if that place of me not being able to contain my emotion is lashed out onto someone else, and it is so awful when it does, because of the things that come out of my mouth, are you can't take that back. So I'm not going to sit here and think I'm perfect. I'm going to truly admit to my faults, and my fault or my weakness, or my less, I should say, my ability to not have self-control is a thing that I struggle with and still working on at this day, at this age.
And let's be very, very clear here. And I don't want anyone to forget, boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're also about saying yes to what makes you happy and fulfilled. We have to know how to communicate that. For example, if you need time alone to recharge, that's a boundary that allows you to bring your best self to relationships. And I know for me, because I have, a very deep creative side, in order for me to balance my life and not be too masculine, I have to have space of alone time and being in nature and being with my dog just by myself, so that I can keep that side, that creative side, in flow. So sometimes it's saying yes to a boundary so that you can be better when you're together.
Yes, great point. Exactly, Laura. Boundaries can be dynamic and can change over time as your relationship evolves. It's important to regularly check with yourself and your partner to ensure that your boundaries are still serving both of you. And saying yes to yourself is really a boundary for yourself, for your well-being. So I completely agree with you, Laura, on that I too in the past probably didn't say yes to myself as often as I wanted to, because I was a people pleaser. So I never really said yes to myself. Cut to now, And maybe this comes over time with maturity when you've gone through enough and you've become somewhat self-aware of the things that are good for you, because whatever's good for you, you can only be that much better for the other. So I have learned as well to say yes to myself, to carve out that time for myself as you do, Laura, because I know when I do self-healing for myself, I'm going to show up much better for my partner.
Yes, 100%. So, a practical tip for setting boundaries is to start by identifying your own needs and limits. What are the non negotiables in your relationship? It could be needing time for your hobbies, not discussing work after 7 p.m., or expecting honesty and respect in all communications. And I know that when it comes to work, when you, especially for entrepreneurs, this can be really, really tricky. For entrepreneurs that have your own business, like me, like Aneela, uh, you know, when you're really passionate about what you do, then it just becomes a part of your everyday breathing breath. So you do have to be very conscientious of that. And even if your partner is a part of your business or is a part of the same line of business, just be very, very cautious that it's kind of like having kids. Like what happens to, parents who have kids that, go off and then they're empty nesters because they've not spent time creating that space for themselves. They no longer have anything to talk about besides their kids. So you don't want to be in a situation where all you really talk about is your work. So create boundaries around what you can and can't discuss and make it more about you and your relationship.
Oh my God, girl, you are hitting on so many things today. I feel like you're tapping into a lot of boundaries within me because I was guilty and terrible at this when I was dating my ex-boyfriend who was a builder and we were into business together. All I found myself talking about was business, design, new houses, next location, and so forth. So terrible. I did not even carve out time for us. Needless to say, of course, we didn't work out, but I've learned. So once you've identified your needs, communicate them clearly and kindly to your partner. Use I statements to express your feelings and needs without sounding accusatory. For example, I feel overwhelmed when I don't have time to unwind after work. Can we set a time to talk later in the evening? This way, you're not accusing them. It's more about you, what you're needing, your boundary to be available in a much better state.
I love that, Aneela. Another important aspect is respecting your partner's boundaries. When both partners honor each other's limits, it creates a balanced and respectful relationship. And Jesus, to me, we all need love, but when you maintain respect in your relationship, it's like solar energy. It really helps relationships last so much longer when you respect each other. When that respect goes away, it's hard to get it back. So it's not just about setting your own boundaries, but also being attentive to your partner's needs.
All right. This episode is insanely triggering things for me because I'm like having flashbacks of so many things that happened in my past that I'm like, oh, yikes, I wish I could take that back because I don't think when I was younger, I had the maturity or self-awareness to respect my partner's boundaries. And I have learned when someone voices something, really take a moment and honor what they're sharing with you. Because if they love you, they're trying to communicate something to you, and you have to honor them. And I believe what you're saying, Laura, if we have respect, kindness, love, we are going to grow as partners with the person we're involved with. It's when we're selfish and want everything our way, we really do hinder our growth with another. So remember, it's okay if boundaries shift over time. Life changes, and so do our needs. Regular open communication ensures that both partners remain on the same page and can adjust boundaries as needed. That is really what love is. It's about communicating, understanding that there's going to be an ebb and a flow, and how well can you flow with the ebbs that come throughout life.
Absolutely. Just like with business, and Aneela knows this in our working together, I do 90-day runs. That's what I call them. And for your relationship, life changes. Your jobs change. Your physical, hormonal insides change. So to expect your relationship to just stay in this one place the whole time, it's just not realistic. So you do have to be very cognizant and like Aneela said, in constant open communication about where you are and what your boundaries are in that moment. So in closing, establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries is a continuous process that enhances self-respect, reduces conflict, and strengthens your connections with your partner. It's not a bad word, I promise. It's a key component to thriving when it comes to your relationship. And this, while we are talking about our love relationships, this is in your work relationship, your friendships. This applies to all relationships, especially as we embrace the richness of life and our vintage era.
Yes, this is an extraordinary time in our lives. So, thank you for tuning in to the Vintage Vibe Love Lounge. We hope you found today's discussion helpful and empowering. Don't forget to join us next time for more insights and tips on navigating love and relationships.
Until then, keep loving yourself and each other. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Vintage Vibe Love Lounge. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram at Vintage Vibe Match. Remember, love knows no age. Get out there and find your vibe and keep vibing with us until next time. Connect with us at findyourvintagevibe.com.